In this video we are going to look at how to upload files into your web application. And as I have said, there are two ways that you can configure application to be able to upload files into a web application. So here we are going to look at the code or how you can do that using the buffered model binding. The first thing that we need to do is to create the application itself. We already have created the folder where application is going to reside. So the second thing, or the next thing to do, is to create the application itself. So how to create an application? We use this web application file upload. We're going to call our application file upload, and the output is going to be, the application is going to be created on the current directory, which is basically C, on my C drive, Razor Pages project upload file, and that is where another upload file folder is going to be created with all the files that the platform does provide us on the outset. So when I click enter here, after entering that, cool, now it's going to create our application. Our application has been successfully created. We should get a notification here. There are files that are missing to be able to debug your files. They're going to come later on. But if you open this folder, this newly created folder, you'll find that there are files that have been created by the platform, the program files. This is where you do all your configurations. This is app settings for that are related to the applications at development applications, that like where you put all your what you call your connection strings. Your connection strings will come on the app settings, but here these files are used to actually configure on how your application is going to be executed. So here we don't need to really do anything on those files. The default or the settings that we have been given by the platforms are just fine. The only thing that we're gonna do here is to create the page where we are going to allow our user to select the file from their local hard drive that they want to upload, and then we're also going to create some folders and some files that are going to be involved in the processing of that file. Does that make sense? So the first thing that we are going to do in this application is to really create a model folder. We're going to create a folder that we are going to call model. We're going to store the type. We're going to create type. One of the types that we are going to create inside that model folder, it's the type that is going to describe the file that we want to upload. Does that make sense? So now the next thing to do is to create a new file. We're going to create a file. Let's first create a file to upload. This is the model of the file that we want to upload, and we're going to define it inside a namespace that is going to be called file upload.model. So that type would be public class file to upload. This is the name of the file. The file to upload. File to upload. Let's see, why is it making an error here? The namespace already contains a definition for file upload. I think if we do restart our OmniSharp, it does this a lot of times. So all you need to do when this is what we've been waiting for here. Required access to build and debug are missing from upload file. Add them. Yes, I want to add those the required files to be able to debug and run this application. So now the only property that we are going to define inside this file to upload, it's basically a public property that is of type iform file. And if you are following along, you'll remember that I said there are two ways that you can upload files in ASP.NET Core, and one of those ways is the buffered model binding, or the streaming model binding. So here we are using the buffered model binding, and when you use the buffered model binding, you will actually make use of the iForm file interface, which represent the file that you want to upload. So here this is a C# type representation of the file that you want to upload, and iForm file represent the contents of that file that the user is going to select. Does that make sense? Cool. So the next type to create here, the next file to create, it's a file that I will call services. So this is where we are going to write some of the types that are going to be involved in actually processing the file that will be selected by the user that they want to upload into our application. So here we're going to define let's first define that any type that we define in this namespace will be defined inside this namespace. We define the namespace. Now the first type to define inside this namespace, file upload.model, the first type is the interface that represent the file that we are going that we are going to process, and that will be selected by the user. So here we interface. So the name of this interface, we're gonna call it iBuffered file upload, and this interface is going to define a method that return a boolean type, but here we're going to use an async method, and we're going to call this method upload file. So every file to upload. So every type that is going to implement this interface will have to provide the implementation for upload file, which will be basically where you will be processing the file that is being uploaded. Again, we are having this issue, and when you have this issue where you are notified that the type that you are trying to define already exists, when you in fact know that there is no other type that exists, what you need to do, you need to click Control and Shift at the same time, and then go to P, and when you you select Restart OmniSharp. When you restart OmniSharp, it restart OmniSharp. I think this is a bug with OmniSharp. Does that make sense? So now we are going to define the real type that is going to implement this interface, and it's gonna be a class type. We're going to call it buffered file upload service, and it's gonna be implementing iBuffered upload service, and we want it to implement the upload file method. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. So the first thing that we are going to do here is to actually declare a variable that is going to store the path to where we want this file to be uploaded to, and to do that we use the types that are inside the methods that are found inside the path type. There's one method called get full path, which basically gives us the full path. We provide it with the relative path, and the relative path that we want to provide here, it's basically where the execution of this application is, and to get that we say path dot environment variable dot current directory, we should combine this. We should use combined path dot combine. We combine environment directory, and we're going to create a folder called uploaded files. It will uploaded files. So it's gonna get the current directory, which will be where the application is executing, but that will not be a full path. So now after we get the current directory where the application is, the relative current directory where the application is executing, and then we add a folder called uploaded files, or we append a folder called uploaded files into that current directory. Then we get a full path into that directory. Does that make sense? Hopefully. So now we've got the full path where we want to save our file. We need to use this try, so that if anything goes wrong, we are able to catch the exception. So now here we have to check if the path that we are trying to get already exists, or it does not exist, so that if it does not exist, at least we create it. So if we use the directory methods to be able to define that directory dot exist, dot exist, if it doesn't exist, if this directory does not exist, this is where we want to save our file. If it doesn't exist, then create it, dot create directory path. If it doesn't exist, create it. So obviously if it does exist, it's gonna pass here, so let's use a using statement. So we're going to create a file stream that will point to where we want our file to be saved. So we're going to create a new file stream. The first argument or parameter that is required by the file stream type, it's where you want your file to be uploaded. So you're gonna say path dot combine path and file dot name. So we have to specify that we want this file stream file dot create. Yeah, we can see something is not right here. I don't know why I keep making this mistake, guys. Okay, you know, I spoke for 30 minutes here. I did not put my mic on, so I only have the visuals and writing of code, but there's no sound, so it's gonna be hard for you to follow something like that. So what I'm going to do, because I already have the code, I'm just going to go through all the code that I wrote during that time, explaining everything. The issue that we had was here, beginning here. We had a code like this, and this is not what we were looking for, because the file stream type that we are looking here does not take these type of arguments. The actual thing that we wanted to do here was mode. So when we put mode, then we had the issue being resolved. So now what we are actually doing here is to create a stream to the physical location on the hard drive where our application is executing. Does that make sense? And then after we create this physical location, then what we need to do is to copy the contents of the file that we are receiving from the user into that file stream. That means now this file it's gonna be on our hard drive. Does that make sense? And when all this goes well, we therefore return true to the user. Does that make sense? We return true to the user, meaning that the file has been successfully saved to our local hard drive. Cool. Now the next thing to do was to create the page that the user is going to use to select and upload the file that they want to upload. And we called that page, it's a razor page. It called that page upload file.cshtml. We call it upload file. Okay, let me look at how we created this part of the code. We did not have this one. So what we did, we went to our terminal, we opened our terminal, and then from our terminal we executed this part of this .NET code. So what we are doing here is to create a razor page. We create a razor page, we call it upload file, and we base it to be on the empty template. So basically there is nothing that is going to be created here. The only thing that you are going to get is this public void get method. That's the only thing that you're going to get when you do this. Does that make sense? So that's the only thing. So everything that you see here is something that we created. It's just that we did not record the sound where we are explaining all of this. So I'm trying to go through this code to explain to you what exactly we were doing. Does that make sense? So the only thing that you're going to get here is this method plus these two files. Does that make sense? So this file, it's the one that contains the code that the user is going to see on their browser when they request to upload this file. This is where you make your form element that is going to contain the file to upload, that is going to contain the element that are going to be used to select the file that the user wants to upload from their local computer into your web application. Does that make sense? Cool. So this part of the code, the cs.html.cs file, it's the C# code, it's the back-end code. This is where you handle the page events from the user, like posting and getting. It's when we get, that means when the user requests this page, this part of this method is going to be executed. So when the user does a post event, this method is going to be executed. Does that make sense? So here we declared two properties of upload file model. Does that make sense? So the first one is the one that defines the method that is going to perform the processing of the file that is going to be uploaded by the user, and this type is going to be automatically injected by the built-in dependency injection of ASP.NET Core. Does that make sense? The second property that we defined for upload file model is file contents. File contents is a property that of type iForm file. iForm file. Here we are using, there are two ways, there are two models of uploading file into in ASP.NET Core. Does that make sense? There are two ways of uploading files in ASP.NET Core. The first one we said it's buffered model binding. The second one it's streaming. We said the first one is used for smaller files. The moment your application requires users to, or wants to allow users to be able to upload larger files, you're going to have to use the second configuration of uploading the file, and we're going to look that on the next video. So here we make use of the iForm file. When your application is going or is accepting only the upload of smaller files, you make use of the iForm file. Does that make sense? So this property, we now want it to be part of the process of model binding. Model binding, it's basically the process whereby the framework is going to map the whatever the user posts from the page that you have given to them to the properties of the type that represent the whatever you want the user to enter. Does that make sense? For example, here we have this page, and this page is of type upload file model, and upload file model has these two properties. Unfortunately, this one is a private one. That means only part of this code are going to be able to have an access to this property. This one is a public one, and this one, it's the one that the model binding is going to use to take or to copy the contents of the file element from our form. Okay, the framework is going to take the contents of this file that is selected by the user and copy it into this property. Does that make sense? iForm file, it's the representation, of the file that the user selects. Does that make sense? So what do you do? The first thing that you do when you receive the post action from the user is to make sure that the file contents property, which is basically where the contents of the selected file are, is not null. So what do we do? If it's null, what we do, we just return the page back to the user that this is null. So what you can do, you can try to be fancy, write some error message so that the user knows that, okay, there was something wrong here. It's either you didn't select the file, you just posted this thing without a file, or anything happened during the posting process. But here what we do, we check if this thing is null, we just return this page. But if it's not null, obviously we'll get to this point. And what we do here is to call the upload file of buffered upload type. Buffered upload type, how do we get this buffered upload type? This buffered upload type is automatically injected by the ASP.NET built-in dependency injection. So how does the framework or ASP.NET Core knows what to inject when? Cool. We configure that here. Here we add to the services, we add a transient object. What we are saying here is actually telling ASP.NET Core that, okay, whenever an object of iBuffered file upload is requested, please create an object of buffered file upload service and inject it. Don't inject an object of iBuffered file upload, but rather inject an object of buffered file upload service. So what is the expectation here when that happens is, when you do this, is that this object should be or this type should be a type that implements this interface. Does that make sense? So if you check here on our services, we defined iBuffered file upload, and we said any type that is going to implement this interface should have this method on, should define this method. Does that make sense? So buffered file upload actually implements iBuffered file upload. So which makes sense that when iBuffered file upload is requested, we serve buffered file upload, and that works very well. I don't know if I've made this clear. Cool. Here we are requesting iBuffered file upload, but we are not going to actually receive an object of iBuffered upload. We actually going to receive an object of buffered file upload. And this works, I said this works because actually buffered file upload is an iBuffered file upload, as it implements the interface iBuffered file upload. Does that make sense? So this is dependency injection, and now we have configured that, so this will happen automatically. Cool. So now we have written this part of the code. This is where the user is going to select the file to upload, and now we can start running this application. Let's run this application and see what is happening. Yeah, I know what I need to do. I have a breakpoint there. Let me put this breakpoint here. Let me put that breakpoint there. Yeah, the other thing that I didn't say here is that your file element that is going to hold the contents of the file selected by the user need to have the same name as the property where during the model binding process where the contents are going to be copied. So that makes sense. I'm not sure again if you can see or if my browser is being screenshot here, because we're actually screenshotting Visual Studio. I don't know if you saw this on the browser, but when you run, after writing all of this, you should get a page, but I'm not sure if my browser is being recorded here, because the tool that I'm using to do this recording, it looks like it only focuses on the application that you specified that you want to record. So as you change between the folders and application, it doesn't record the whole thing that is happening on your computer. It only focuses on Visual Studio Code. I'm not sure, so I'll check that. But what I did here when I ran this code, I got a page, this page, and I selected a file. And after selecting a file, I clicked upload file. When I clicked upload file, this is where we receive this. So if we do, okay, file contents is null. Now let's see why file contents is null. Something is not right here. Something is not right. Cool. Something is not right here. Let's see why contents is null. Why contents is null? Let's see. Let's come to this page. File contents. Oh, okay. Hope I am not going to make the mistake that I made previously of talking for a long time while the microphone is not on. Okay, fine. Guys, we were having an issue here when we were uploading our file where we were not actually able to we were getting this file content that is where we said the contents of the file that will be selected by the user will be copied too, but there was a null on this property. The mistake that I was making is that we did not specify the encoding type. How do we want this content to be encoded? So actually, even though the post event was getting to the server, but the encoding, the content, there was nothing on the content because we did not specify the encoding type. So we said we want this to be a multi-part form data. This is basically means that we are sending a form data, and we're going to have to look at this on what it means, like at the core. How does the server uses these properties in order to be able to actually define and be able to tell the type of content that has been posted by the user. But all we needed to do here to avoid this being null when it is posted was to add this property to our form. Does that make sense? So I'm gonna go to my web browser. The application is already running, but I'm gonna go to my web browser. Unfortunately, we are not able to screenshot the web browser, but basically what we are going to do is to visit this application and then visit the page where we're going to select the file. That's my image. So after selecting this file, I'm going to post it here. This is where we're going to get this, and we should have the contents of the file inside this file content when I do the posting. I haven't posted this yet, so I'm going to post it. And as you can see, when I post it, now we are receiving the post from the user. And if you go here, there is a form. There is a form data by the name of monailahutlisa.jpg. This is all the information that relates to that content. There's length, how big this is, and there's quite a number of things that you can do or that you can find about this. The name, for example, when you want the name of the file, the content type, where you are able to define it. Even you can read some of the information about the send file through the HTTP headers. Does that make sense? So now what we do, now we are uploading this file. That means we are going to save this file to our file system. So upload file is this file. We give the file that we receive. We specify the file that we receive because it's inside the file content property. And when that happens, and we do all of these things, let me move over. So now we are in this method. This is where we are processing our file. This is the file that we are receiving, and we said the first thing that we do is to create a path to where we want to actually save this file that we are receiving. So we've created the full path to that using the get full path method of path class. So here we use the current directory. The current directory here is where the application is actually running. Our application is running on Razor Pages upload 5. But here we will not get the full path to where the application is. We're just going to get the relative path. I need to close my door. Excuse me. Shit. So now get environment.current directory is just going to give us the relative path to where the application is running. So we combine that with a folder where we want these files to be actually saved inside the current directory. We create this folder and we combine these two to create one path, and then we get a full path to that, which is basically the physical path to where we want our file to be saved. But here we haven't specified the actual name, the physical path. We just have specified the path. We did not specify the physical location. So the next thing that we need to do is to check if this directory does exist. If it doesn't exist, we're going to create it. We're going to come inside here, which in this case it doesn't exist yet. So we create it. This is the first file that we are creating when we were uploading. When you upload the second subsequent files, this part of the code will not execute. So we create that directory on our C drive. Now we create a physical file stream to where we want to save this file. Does that make sense? We have a path to where we want it to be saved. Now we create a physical stream to the hard drive. Does that make sense? And that includes the name of the file. Does that make sense? So now we copy the contents of the file that we received from the user. We copy them to this file stream, and this file stream, we said it points to a physical location in our hard drive where this web application is executing. If this all goes well, therefore we get to this part of the code which is where we return true, letting the caller that we have successfully saved the file. So you can be fancy here. You can actually notify to the user that the file was successfully saved. So in this case, we are not doing anything, because our point was just to show you how to get this file to the server. So you can go to the files of your application. Now you'll find uploaded files. This folder was not there, and there is that file. We did not specify the mistake that we did not specify the extension of this file. So we're going to fix that just in a moment. But the file is there. Does that make sense? The file is there. We will not be able to view it yet. Let's specify the extension and see if Visual Studio Code will be able to recognize those the type of the file and display it properly. Okay guys, all we need to do is to change this property here. We only had name excuse me, we only had got the file name, so that is why it did not give us the extension of the file, and we need that extension. But if we use the file name property, it's going to give us the file name including the extension, and therefore the file should be saved with the right extension. And we're going to test that, run it, going to do exactly the same thing that we did, except that we just want to see this if it's going. And if you can notice here, I've removed that folder where these files will be uploaded. It's going to be recreated again. I'll do this. I'll select the file that I want to upload. And after selecting it, I'll post it. So I'll just go through. I've explained all of this. Create the file. Let me see. Okay, let me just run all of this code. So I'll go to my files and check. Boom, there is it. Now it's saved with the extension, and Visual Studio is able to actually view this image. Does that make sense? And all we needed to do was to just use the the file name property, which get the file name plus the extension, and that is how correctly the file is going to be saved with the right extension. Does that make sense? I hope you have understood how to upload a file in ASP.NET Core.